I still don't know where he went, but I do know this. Whatever he tried to keep out didn't leave when he did. It started with the smell. Not rotten, not sulfuric, just wrong. Like something pretending to be familiar. My wife said it reminded her of wet soil, but colder. We'd moved into the house 3 weeks earlier. It was old, tucked into a quiet cul-de-sac. The kind of place you'd expect to hear birds in the morning and nothing at night. But from the first night, the silence felt heavy, like it was waiting. Our daughter, Mia, started sleepwalking. She'd never done that before. We'd find her standing in the hallway, facing the wall, whispering. Not words, just sounds, rhythmic, almost like chanting. The first time it happened, I thought she was dreaming. The second time, I locked our bedroom door. Then came the scratching. Inside the walls, always between 2 and 3 a.m., I checked for mice, raccoons, anything, nothing, no droppings, no holes, no signs of life, just the sound, and the cold. The living room, especially, dropped in temperature every night. I bought a thermometer. It would fall to 9 degrees Celsius, even with the heat on. We called Father Rinaldi. He wasn't our priest, but he was known in the area for handling unusual cases. He arrived with a small suitcase, a crucifix, and a look that said he'd seen worse. He walked through the house slowly, pausing in the living room longer than anywhere else. He didn't say much, just asked if we'd had any renovations done recently. We hadn't. That evening he performed a cleansing. He lit incense, read scripture, and sprinkled holy water in every room. Mia stayed with her grandparents that night. My wife and I watched from the kitchen as he moved through the house, murmuring prayers. At one point, he stopped mid-sentence and stared at the wall behind the couch. He didn't explain why. When he finished, he looked exhausted, pale. He asked if he could sleep in the living room, just in case. He said, I offered the guest room, but he refused. Said he needed to be close to whatever had been disturbed. We gave him blankets and left him there. I woke up around 6 a.m. to the sound of my wife calling my name. Her voice was sharp, panicked. I ran downstairs. The living room was empty. No blankets, no suitcase, no Father Rinaldi. But the walls, God, the walls. They were covered in symbols, hundreds of them, carved, not drawn. Deep grooves etched into the plaster. Circles, crosses, spirals, things I'd never seen before. Some looked ancient. Others looked like they were still moving. We called the police. They searched the house, the neighborhood, even the nearby woods. No sign of him. His car was still parked outside. His phone was in the glove compartment. No missed calls, no messages. We tried scrubbing the walls. Nothing worked. Not bleach, not sanding, not repainting. The symbols bled through everything. We even replaced the drywall. Same spots. Mia started having nightmares again. She'd wake up screaming, saying he's still here. We asked who. She'd just point to the living room. One night, she said he was standing in the corner, whispering to the walls. We moved out 2 months later, sold the house at a loss. I didn't tell the buyers everything, just that it had unusual energy. I still feel guilty about that. Last week, I got a letter, no return address. Inside was a single photo. It was our old living room. Same furniture, same layout, but the symbols were gone. In their place was a single phrase, written in black marker across the wall. He never left. I don't know who sent it. I don't know what it means, but I haven't slept since. And sometimes, when the house is quiet, I swear I hear scratching, not in the walls, in the floorboards, beneath me, waiting. I was in 10th grade when it happened. Our school was hosting a mandatory assembly in the gym, one of those generic character building events where they bring in a speaker to talk about kindness or leadership or whatever they think will keep us out of trouble. I remember the air felt unusually cold that morning, even though it was late spring. The gym lights flickered once when we walked in, and a few kids joked about ghosts. I didn't laugh. I had this weird pressure in my chest, like something was sitting on it. We were halfway through the speaker's presentation when it started. It was talking about resilience. I think, something about overcoming adversity. That's when Emily stood up. She was in the row ahead of me, 2 seats to the left. Quiet girl, never caused problems. Always had her hair braided, always wore long sleeves, even in summer. She stood up slowly, like she was being pulled by invisible strings. Her arms hung limp at her sides, and her head tilted slightly upward, eyes wide open. At first I thought she was going to faint, but then she started speaking. It wasn't her voice, it came from her mouth, but it was flat, emotionless, and deeper than I'd ever heard her speak. She began reciting scripture, something from the book of Revelation, I think. I didn't recognize the exact passage, but it was about beasts and fire and judgment. Her voice echoed through the gym, even though she wasn't shouting. It was like the sound was coming from everywhere at once. People started murmuring. A few teachers stood up, unsure whether to intervene. The speaker looked frozen, his mouth slightly open, eyes locked on Emily. She kept going. Her eyes never moved. Her pupils didn't dilate. She didn't blink. Then the principal, Mr. Hargrove, walked over. He was a tall guy, always carried himself like he was in control. He placed a hand on Emily's shoulder and said something. I couldn't hear what, but she didn't react. He tried to gently guide her back to her seat. That's when her eyes started bleeding. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no flailing. Just two thin streams of red trickling down her cheeks, like tears. Mr. Hargrove recoiled instantly, and Emily turned her head toward him. Still speaking, still monotone. Her voice got louder, but not in volume. It felt louder, like it was inside my head. The gym erupted. Kids screamed. Some ran for the doors. A few just stood there, frozen. I couldn't move. I felt like my legs were filled with cement. My ears rang, and my vision blurred at the edges. I remember gripping the edge of the bleacher so hard my knuckles turned white. Emily collapsed, just like that. Mid-sentence, her knees buckled, and she hit the floor hard. Mr. Hargrove called for the nurse, but she was already running over. Teachers tried to clear the area. Someone pulled the fire alarm, and we were evacuated. They told us later it was a seizure, that she'd had a medical episode and was being treated. But no one mentioned the scripture. No one mentioned the bleeding, and no one explained why the speaker left without finishing his talk, or why he never came back to the school again. I tried to forget about it. We all did. But things got weird after that. Emily didn't return to school. Her desk stayed empty for weeks. Then one day, it was gone. Like it had never been there. Her name was removed from the attendance list. Her locker was reassigned. It was like she'd been erased. I asked one of the teachers about her. She looked at me like I'd said something offensive, told me not to spread rumors. But I wasn't the only one who remembered. A few of us started talking quietly in corners, away from staff. We all remembered the voice, the bleeding, the way the air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on us. One kid said he saw symbols carved into the underside of the bleachers the day after. I checked, they were there. Faint, but real. Circles, crosses, shapes I couldn't identify. I took a photo, but it disappeared from my phone the next day. Just gone. Last week I got a message from an unknown number. No text, just a voice recording. It was Emily's voice, or at least, the voice she used that day, reciting the same passage. I deleted it immediately, but I still hear it sometimes, in dreams, in silence. I don't know what happened to her. I don't know what she saw, or why she was chosen, but I do know this. Something came through her, and it didn't leave when she collapsed. It's still here, somewhere, watching, waiting, and I think it's looking for someone new. I've been a priest for over 20 years. I've heard confessions that would make most people lose sleep, but nothing ever truly frightened me until that night. It was a Thursday, just after evening mass. The church was nearly empty, the kind of silence that feels sacred but also slightly unnatural when you're alone in it. I was tidying up the altar, preparing for the next morning's service, when I heard it, a soft, muffled sobbing coming from the confessional booth. I paused. The lights above flickered once, but I didn't think much of it. I assumed someone had slipped in quietly, maybe ashamed or afraid to be seen. That happens more often than you'd expect. I walked over, opened my side of the booth, and sat down. She didn't speak at first, just kept sobbing. I waited, gently said, "You're safe here, take your time." That's when she whispered, "Please help me, he won't let me leave." Her voice was fragile, like it had been crying for hours. I leaned closer, trying to make out her words. "Who won't let you leave?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she began reciting something. At first I thought it was a prayer, but it wasn't any I recognized. It sounded like Latin, but distorted, like someone trying to mimic the rhythm without understanding the meaning. Her voice grew steadier, colder. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. The booth was suddenly freezing. I could see my breath. I reached for the small crucifix I keep in my pocket and asked again, "Are you in danger? Do you need help?" She stopped speaking. The silence was deafening. I waited, heart pounding, then slowly opened the door to her side of the confessional. It was empty. No coat, no purse, no sign anyone had been there. Just the faint scent of something sweet and rotting, like flowers left too long in stagnant water. I stepped out, confused, and turned to check the pews. That's when I heard it again, her voice. Still sobbing, still whispering. but now it was behind me. I spun around. Nothing, just the flickering candles and the echo of my own breath. I walked back toward the booth, and the sobbing grew louder. It was coming from the altar now. I followed it, slowly, cautiously. The sound seemed to move, always just out of reach. I called out, "If you're here, please show yourself. I want to help." The sobbing stopped. Then, from directly behind me, I heard her voice clear.com, and terrifyingly close. "You already did." I turned, but again, no one was there. Just the empty pews and the cold. I felt something brush past me like a breeze, but there were no open windows. I backed away, clutching the crucifix tighter. I decided to bless the church again, right then and there. I retrieved holy water from the sacristy and began walking the perimeter, praying aloud. As I passed the confessional, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Scratched into the wood of the booth, just above the seat where she should have been, were 3 words: "He is listening." I didn't sleep that night. I stayed in the church until morning, lights on, prayers constant. I told myself it was a trick of the mind, stress, exhaustion, but deep down, I knew better. The next day, I asked the other priests if they'd ever experienced anything strange in the confessional. One of them, Father Thomas, went pale. He said years ago, before I arrived, a woman had come in during confession and claimed she was being followed by something she could unsee. She said it whispered to her in Latin, told her things no one else could know. She disappeared a week later. Her car was found near the woods, doors open, engine still running, no trace of her. I asked if she'd ever come to our church. He nodded. She sat in that same booth. I don't know what followed her. I don't know if it's still here. But sometimes, late at night, when the church is quiet and the candles burn low, I hear sobbing again. Always faint, always from the confessional, and I never open the door anymore because I know what I'll find.